Good morning. Hi, it's 8:07. I'm sorry I'm late this morning. I hope you can hear me. Let me see if I can turn the volume up here. And it is Sunday morning. I really wrestled with whether or not I would get up and do this. Sometimes I think Sundays I want to just take a rest, but um, I chose to come on, but I'm here late. Good morning, Melissa. How are you? Um, Yesterday was a very difficult day for me. That's the other reason I did not want to come on this morning. Actually, I was just sort of down and felt very alone. And so, if you've ever felt like that, you know it can be hard to follow through with commitments and face people. And honestly, I just didn't want to face you all today because I feel like I've cried a river. Hold on just a minute. But here I am, unplugged, no makeup. Uh, Hopefully that's okay. And yeah, just being in a new place for 3 years and still not having really concrete relationships with people here is just daunting to me. So I'm still at it, trying to build community, but I get really tired and weary. And part of it's our family dynamic. I think having teenagers that are just at an age where they're not they're not outgoing kids. Um, they're really good kids, a blessing to me, but they're quiet and they're sort of reserved. And so our family's not just like out there like it was easier when they were little. I could just like take them everywhere with me, and we were in community a lot more. But the dynamics have changed, and it's not very fun for me because I want to be with people. And so that's my little 2 cents this morning, and I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed with the world and stuff going on and that I've not seen before. And since we're in a new place in society where things could go really well if people get on board, or if we don't get on board, little children, the train is going to go right by. And that's a little scary to be watching. Melissa, thank you for understanding. So, um, yeah, I've been kind of crying out for the whole empty nest syndrome thing as your kids grow up. How do you switch? How do you find community in that place? um, so, any thoughts? There's a couple more people on. Hello, whoever you are. Let's get into chapter 40, the cupbearer and the baker and their dreams. This is probably Joseph. Um, I can sort of relate to him because he's in prison here for 13 years. It's a very long time to be feeling forgotten, which is, um, gosh, he waited on God's promises and God's faithfulness, even in this very hard, difficult place that he was in. So let's read about this. He was faithful. He continued to deliver God's word, even though what he had to say to the baker and, well, especially to the baker and the chief steward, the cupbearer, um, wasn't very easy to say. And I think that one thing I'm noticing in these times that we're living in, just in this year particularly. It's easy for prophetic people to give prophetic words that line up with things of hope and just, I'll just say that, things of hope. But when the prophetic word that God gives you is not very hopeful and is a warning and is something that people really do need to hear as well, um, it's hard to find faithful people who will give those kinds of words. They even, I think, get marked in the prophetic community and not asked to, or not agreed with, not asked to be a part of the community. It's just sad. But God is speaking and He has things to tell us, and some of those things are very hopeful, and some of them are warnings so that we can change our path. Hi, good morning, Becky. So, yeah, I just want to, I don't know, I feel like I'm just going all around, but let's start reading the word and then we'll get to the main. There's about two things here that I want to bring out. Sometime later, both Pharaoh's chief steward and chief baker deeply offended their master, the king of Egypt. The notes say that there is a tradition, a Hebrew tradition, that says that there was possibly a fly in Pharaoh's cup of wine and maybe a small stone in his bread. So he was deeply offended by these two men and cast them into prison. So we don't know what the offense was, but we know that it could have been something as silly as a fly and a little stone. And lately I have been asking God, make me a woman who is not offended easily. And it is the cry of my heart because it feels like everywhere I go and everything I encounter can become an offense to me. And I am trying so much to confess it to the Lord and tell Him that I am so tired of being easily offended. I do not want to be like Pharaoh. I'm just speaking to my own soul. I do not want to be a Pharaoh who throws people into prison because of a fly or a small stone. And with that, I could say, have a good day and be done because that is probably all the Lord wanted to tell me this morning. But I know He wants to speak a lot more. But I want to always be up for correction, don't you? I need it so badly. Um, okay, so they deeply offended their master, who's the king of Egypt, and Pharaoh was angry. The chiefs with his two officers, the chief steward and this chief baker. So he incarcerated them in the palace of Potiphar, the captain of the guard, in the same prison where Joseph was bound. So Joseph had already been there. He was thrown in there at age 17. And we're going to find out today that he didn't get out till age 30. 13 years in this prison. The captain of the guard placed them under Joseph's charge, and they remained in custody for some time. Okay, then one night they both dreamed, the steward and the baker, officials of the king of Egypt. They each had a prophetic dream with different interpretations. Now, this also shows that people dream prophetically, whether they are Yahweh followers or not. When Joseph, and it happens because God still wants to demonstrate His power. He's put Joseph right there with them. Joseph is a representative of God, and he's going to speak on God's behalf. And the anyway, the dreaming of so many in so many places in their life and in different belief systems still comes from God. So when Joseph came to them in the morning, he saw they looked miserable. So he asked Pharaoh's two officials who were under his custody, "What is wrong and why do you have such sad faces?" So he could read their faces that something had gone on in the night. And they told him, "We had dreams last night," they answered, "and we have no one to interpret them." So the dreams were troubling, but more troubling than that was that they didn't know who they could ask to interpret them, being locked up in prison. And Joseph said to them, "God can interpret your dreams. Please tell them to me." So I love his response because he didn't say, "I can interpret your dreams." And this shows the immense integrity of this man and that he knew to the core who he was, that he was God's servant. And so he says, "God can interpret your dreams." He doesn't say, "I can interpret your dreams." Amazing. And he says, "But please tell them to me," because he's saying, I have God. I know him, and he'll tell me what your dreams mean. Excuse me. So the chief steward shared his dream with Joseph first, and he said, "In my dream, I saw a vine with three branches in front of me. I watched as it budded, and then immediately it blossomed, and its clusters ripened into grapes." So he's describing his dream, and then he says, "I was holding Pharaoh's cup, and I took the grapes. I squeezed them into his cup and handed the cup to the king." Joseph said to him, "God has given me the interpretation of your dream." He knew right away. He knew right away what the dream meant. The three branches are 3 days. And I want you to be thinking here, because we're going to read in the notes later about what happened in 3 days with Jesus on the cross and how this is going to parallel to the story of the cross. The branches are 3 days. In 3 days, Pharaoh will pardon you and restore you to your post. Wow, he's going to go back to work. You will once again hand Pharaoh's cup to him as you used to do as his steward. When things start to go well for you, will you remember me? Will you please be kind and mention me to Pharaoh so that he might release me from here? For I was kidnapped from the land of the Hebrews, and I have done nothing here to deserve being thrown into this dungeon. He's just telling him his plight. He's asking for mercy, and he's saying, when you get out of here in 3 days, you could be my ticket out of here as well, because you and I have formed this friendship. You trust me. I'm explaining your dream to you. Would you just do me a favor and mention me to the king? When the chief baker saw how favorably Joseph interpreted the dream, so he had a favorable interpretation for the chief cupbearer. So he said, "Please interpret my dream. Let me tell you what I dreamt. I saw three wicker baskets, three wicker bread baskets stacked on my head, one above the other. In the top basket, I saw all kinds of breads and pastries for Pharaoh to enjoy. But the birds came and ate out of the baskets above my head." So there's an element of provision being stolen, or, um, yeah, something's wrong here. There isn't the beautiful picture of the budding and the turning into grapes like the first dream. Joseph said, "God gave me the interpretation to your dream." Right away, he knew. And he speaks this out as easily, as forthrightly as he did the first dream, even though this interpretation is not favorable. And this is what I was alluding to about how people um, only give words that they think are going to encourage, because it's kind of been the standard now of what a prophetic word is allowed to be, something to build up and to encourage. and to bring life to the hearer. But for some reason, we have forgotten that we have to also give the word of the Lord if it is something that is difficult to hear. And I think that's one of the main things that I want to say today, because I really feel like in our country we have, in some ways, missed it prophetically because we're not willing to listen to the people who are trying to say, wait a minute, let's get our bearings here. We've got some repentance to do. We've got some real work to do here. We've got some real fasting and praying and deliberately getting on our faces before the Lord and coming to Him and telling Him that we've never needed Him so badly in our history, in our lifetimes as we do now. And let Him have the favorable outcome as a result of our coming together and being repentant and being sorrowful. If it's not for our own sin, which should take up the majority of our time, it can be on behalf of our cities, on behalf of our nations. And then, you guys, we have we have the time to go through and bring declarations into our um, towns. And I just really implore you, as I've been saying, I think I've said it the last 2 days, if you don't have something to declare at your fingertips, I can send you the declarations that we made here in our city 2 weeks ago. And we need to keep drawing boundary lines and bloodlines and declaring the word of the Lord in our hometowns, in our cities, so that the Lord will continue to bring peace and safety through these times. And if you need those declarations, what I'm trying to say is I will send them to you through Messenger if you want them. Okay, so I'm getting off here. And so the interpretation of the dream is, in 3 days, Pharaoh will behead you and impale you on a pole, and birds will eat the flesh of your corpse. 3 days later, it was Pharaoh's birthday, and he threw a huge feast for all of his household. He singled out among his servants the chief steward and the chief baker. He pardoned the chief steward and restored him to his post, and the chief steward was, oh, sorry, and the steward handed Pharaoh his drink, but he had the chief baker beheaded and impaled on a pole. So Joseph had accurately interpreted both their dreams, but the chief steward completely forgot about Joseph and never remembered him. So it happened just as Joseph said it would, and he was completely accurate, and yet the cupbearer did not remember Joseph. Now, my take on this is that it's impossible. It would be utterly impossible for him to forget Joseph. So, whatever this means that he completely forgot about Joseph, I take that to mean that he completely chose to forget about Joseph. And I don't know why. But he did not bring Joseph up to the Pharaoh. I think he was trying to keep himself, um, I think he was trying to keep himself um, in a good place, so that he could stay on his post there with the Pharaoh. So, okay, so that's all of chapter 40. Now, I just want to, I did just get your message, Becky, and I will send them to you. Yay! So I'll read the little notes here that I think are really important. There's a couple things, like I said, about chapter 40 that we don't want to skip over. So one is that Okay, so we were talking about the 3 days in the interpretation of the dreams and how that might have something to do with the 3 days when Jesus died on the cross. So in verse 4, the notes say that Jesus was falsely accused. Jesus was maligned, and Jesus was crucified between two thieves. At Calvary, the men imprisoned with Joseph 3 days after they were released. Christ was rejected by his brothers. These are the ways that he lines up with Joseph, or Joseph's life lines up with Jesus. He was sold by one of his own. He eventually was cast into the prison of death. Psalm 105:18 gives us additional information about Joseph's time in prison. His feet were bruised by strong shackles and his soul was held in iron. We read that yesterday. Psalm 105 is a psalm that includes the story of Joseph's life. If you didn't come on yesterday and you want to read that, we read through that yesterday. The last phrase can be translated, his soul entered into iron. And that means that the inner strength of loving and serving in painful circumstances made Joseph's soul as strong as iron. He learned to serve and to rule over himself first before God released him to rule over others. So he was hi Gail, I see that you're on. He was completely devoted to the Lord, even as he had been in prison for 13 years, and even as he was forgotten, even as he had delivered the word of the Lord in prison, and he was not acknowledged by the man who was set free. Um, or for that matter, the man who was beheaded had the opportunity to say something before he died. So then, verse 14, when we read about how he's, pleading with this cupbearer, when things go well for you, please don't forget me when you get out of here. It says in the notes that Joseph could prophesy the release of another, but he could not prophesy the release of himself. Isn't that amazing? Often prophetic gifts and words of revelation over other people simply do not come for the prophet himself. That is amazing. You can be prophesying great release for other people's life, but it's not coming to you. They are gifts to be used to bless others, but they are not for self consumption. We need others to come with a word for our need. That's what I need, you guys. I need for you to come with a word for me because my last day or so has been absolutely yucky. So I'm saying I identify with this with Joseph that sometimes I need a word too. I need people to gather around me as well. This keeps us not only dependent upon God, but upon others. Yes, amen. This is so true. Um, in verse 15, it says, Joseph felt forgotten. He had been forgotten for a long, long time. He became a slave when he was 17 years old, and soon afterward, Potiphar cast him into prison. He wasn't long in Potiphar's house before he was cast into prison. Not until he was 30 did Pharaoh release him from prison. 13 years is a long time to be forgotten. His faith in God and the fulfillment of his dreams kept Joseph faithfully waiting for his day of promotion. All right, so he had this tenacity to wait on his dreams to be fulfilled that was unshakable, and he had an ironclad heart and soul that believed God. Oh, there's my little Pepper over there coming on the couch. Hi, Pepper. She's so much better, you guys. She's, oh my goodness, so grateful. Perhaps that, like Joseph, you've been let down by others who promised to be a help to you but did not follow through on their pledge. Isn't that just hunky dory awful when people give you their word and they don't follow through? That's just so difficult. Don't despair, for God will never forget the dreams He has for His children. Even if others let us down, God is always faithful and will bring his faithful to pass at the appointed time. So that's the end of the notes on chapter 40. And I just want to say to you that, well, first of all, if you have anything you want to chime in here, we really, Lord, bring a word for Laura. Thank you. Um, yes, that would be so good. Um, I just want to know if you have any comments. I'm looking here and making sure I'm seeing all these comments. And I appreciate you guys. This is just chapter 40 in Genesis, and we don't have much more to read about the life of Joseph. We're buzzing through here. Next time we come together will be day 74. This is day 73. Day 74 is going to be a day of deliverance. So just so you know, he's going to get out of this prison. So that's hopeful, isn't it? That's so good. There's a way of escape God's bringing for Joseph. So that's what we stay tuned for tomorrow. And is there anything anyone wants to say? Any concerns that you have? Um, Sounds like Pepper's groaning over here, probably hungry. Bless you all. This is one of my favorite cups. I know I used to highlight my coffee cups in the beginning when we first started these Bible studies. And the reason this is one of my favorite cups, first of all, this came from my friend Ivy, who I love. And it's a cup from Anthropology. And you're very, very hip if you have anything from Anthropology. So it's my attempt at being hip. Yes, so happy Pepper's better. You know, really, things could have gone south for our dog, and we could have lost her. But God, I don't know if I shared this, but there was a night, um, and I can't tell you what night it was. I'd have to look on my calendar, but I had been weeping through the day about Pepper because I was probably tired from being up with her night after night. So that makes anybody weepy, but I was just realizing, I was out of ideas and out of money to pay for any more services at the vet. It was, I'm not even going to tell you how much money it was. It was a lot. And I just had no other, I just had to look to God. And so all of a sudden, I felt like I needed to rise up and take authority over a spirit of infirmity on her. And I did. And I got really upset with this illness that she had been fighting. Poor little dog. And I told it, commanded it to leave. And she turned around that night. That was it. She was showing signs of improvement right away. And sometimes we get like so overwhelmed, or I do, like just I was down in the trenches with her day after day, picking her up everywhere, carrying her everywhere. She was so little. She had gone from a fluff ball down to just she was yeah. It was just God broke through. And I'm looking over here. Yes, you are hip even without the cup. That's so funny. Thank you. Um, so anything else? Hope your dogs are all okay. And it is Sunday. We don't have our church opening here in Reading until July 12th. So we're still online until then. There's a soft reentry, so crazy, that only the leaders and staff will be a part of. So just a few people trying to make church work inside the building, beginning of July, and then all the people are invited by the 12th. And what's really going on is they're redoing the children's wing, and they are trying so hard to accommodate the children and the babies, and they're trying to figure out how do we do this with social distancing. Kids are not going to do that. So I don't know what they've come up with, but they don't want to have real like in-house church without the kids. Um, Maybe every church is thinking through things differently, but that's where we're at here. You have fought your fight. I am fighting. That's for sure. Oh, I have a question. Do any of you ever can or has anybody on here made jam or jelly? Because I need someone to show me how to make jam because I have hundreds of plums I'm trying to harvest off of our trees. And maybe I just need to bag them up and hand them out, the plums. But um, is it hard to make jam? Have you ever done that? I've not done it. I have a friend here, though, that wants to help me or kind of teach me how to do it. So I have to go buy all these mason jars. And do I really want to do this? This is what I'm wrestling with right now. What are you guys doing today? What's everyone going to be out and about doing? Making declarations? Did I hear you say you were going to make declarations, Becky? Oh, my mom makes jam. Oh yeah, I know. I did watch a YouTube video. I am all right. Thank you for coming on and have a good day, everyone. It's a whole day. It takes all day. Oh gosh. Okay. Good to know. Why does it take all day? Okay. All right. So I need actually one more last thing. I know I keep saying that I need to get away. I've I've got to get out of Reading for at least 3 days. I am telling you this, that's part of my trouble is that I feel like I'm driving in the same um, streets every day and I've got to like skedaddle. So I want to skedaddle to Tahoe. I keep saying that. So maybe this is the next weekend. I don't know. I'm really praying about I have to get another filling and then if I feel good, maybe I could leave town. I would like that. You have a lot of plums. I have a lot of plums, and I don't have a fruit picker, and I keep asking if I can borrow someone's fruit picker, and I need to just buy a fruit picker, but I don't want to. Do you have a fruit picker? Do you have fruit trees and have one of those things that you stick on a stick and check the weather? Oh, why? Is it going to rain and snow again? It stormed. Ah, good. It's June. I don't like the heat. That's good. All right, I look and sound like I don't have anything better to do, and other people are going to come on here and ask what in the world. I declare peace and rest for today. I missed that, Melissa. Thank you. Oh, I'm going somewhere. All right. Adios, everyone. Pick and cook all day with a friend. Okay, I get you.